I have a 4-year-old daughter who my father has never met. I think, how could that possibly be, that someone who you have brought into this world, who you would lay down your life for, you can no longer speak to? And I can only imagine it torments him. My father came to visit us, and I finally worked up the courage to tell my father, Dad, I don't think it's God's organization. And there was just a few seconds of stunned silence. After that, I said to him, it's very likely that I could be disfellowshipped. And his answer was, Lloyd, it would kill me, but if it came to that, I wouldn't speak to you. The disappointment in his voice was tangible, and I remember breaking down in tears because I felt I was failing him. So the relationship with Dad now is virtually non-existent. I visited the family home back in England, and I saw that my dad's hedge was massively overgrown, and clearly no one in the congregation had been helping him. So we bought a card and posted it through the letterbox and said, we will be visiting you tomorrow, and I will cut your hedges, so please leave me access to the tools. So I called the next day, wondering what would happen. Would he be there waiting for me? Had he had a change of heart? And what we found was that the house had been abandoned, and he had left access to the tools. So I got to work cutting the hedges, and my wife said, I think your dad just drove by. And so I said, really? And she said, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him. He was circling the block, waiting to see when we would leave, and he never came to meet his granddaughter, and we left with that opportunity being wasted.
Ever since I got disfellowshipped and, having been able to communicate with my parents, I've made several very desperate attempts at trying to almost force my parents to acknowledge my existence. Probably seen Jehovah's Witnesses standing at public transportation stations and things of that nature. And my parents have a post, and I knew when their post was. So I remember going to where they were, and I remember my mother just staring at me. I walked up to her, and it was like she had seen a ghost. She was staring at me, she couldn't move, and she just started bawling. She's literally convinced that if she were to talk to her son, God is going to destroy her.
As I got older and people would be disfellowshipped in the congregation, they would come in just as the meeting was starting, and they would sit down, and usually our family would sit in the second to the front row. And many times the front row, even though they have to walk past everyone, it was left empty. And so there was one sister who had been disfellowshipped, and she sat right next to one of the exits, which was in the front row. And I remember breathing very shallowly whenever she walked in, because I was afraid that I would be contaminated by her disfellowshipping, as if she had a contagious disease.